Alright, let's go. I got all the pieces here. Oh, I took out that one in the back. Let's see. Let's just take off this tailgate. At least. So I'm going to be doing this whole thing from this perspective. We don't have an overhead camera, but all of you who are building these are fairly adept at building things, building telescopes, so I don't know that I need to get that kind of granular detail that we're showing people for our courses, hopefully. But feel free to ask me any questions about any of this stuff. Well, there's a little bit of dirt inside of this thing. Let me get the dirt out while I have this thing open. So I tore this apart, and I actually did a 2-hour-long video explaining everything, how to build it as I took it apart. But I don't know. I think it's probably going to be less confusing if I do a video where I'm actually putting it together. So, why don't I just actually put it together for you, since it's pretty much already taken apart. I'm just going to take out one of these struts to show you how they work. So this is the frame. This is the basic frame of Heart. You have the back, the front, and then you have this bottom panel. And the front and the back sort of connect to this bottom panel via tabs. And then we use as stiffeners these aluminum struts. So these are 1/2-inch aluminum struts, and I figured out that these M6 rivet nuts actually fit really well inside of an aluminum strut with a little bit thicker wall. So different thicknesses of walls work fine, but it's just about how much epoxy you need to put in there to make sure that it's a good connection. So the way we start with these struts, and we cut them to the lengths that I provided in the sheet. So we need 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 of the ones that are this length, 1 that are the shorter length, and then we have 1 that is the IPD shaft, and this one is 370 millimeters long. So we'll get back to that later. But for now, the way we do this is we use that PDF that I gave you to cut those out, use them to measure the length that you need. You cut these with a, buddy, off, pumpkin, off. Come on, buddy. I don't need help. I really appreciate it, but I don't need help right now. I don't need help. Thanks. No, you're not getting that or that. Okay. I have an assistant today. So the way you do this, print out the sheet, cut the lengths out from that sheet, and use those as a template to cut these to the right size with a pipe cutter. And then we use a metal epoxy to epoxy rivet nuts into the ends of these. So we epoxy one into each end because they get a bolt at the front and the back. So the main thing about the epoxy is you need to put in enough that it's going to attach on the inside for sure. But the thing that is even more critical is, believe it or not, a lot of the holding strength is not on the shaft itself, but it's on that lip between the rivet nut and the top. end of the strut. So put enough on there. Put the epoxy onto the rivet nut so that when you insert the rivet nut, it squishes that epoxy onto the walls inside, but then it squishes extra underneath the cap. So there's plenty that squishes out underneath the cap, and you have a good epoxy between this and this. And then have a lot of paper towels. It's really messy stuff. Have a lot of paper towels ready so you can just wipe any excess off of there, because some of the parts are going to slide over these, and we need this to be the right size. If you have a bunch of epoxy hardened onto the outside of this after you make it, then those parts aren't going to fit onto it. You're going to have to spend time sanding that off, which isn't going to be any fun. So wipe it while it's wet, and then don't worry about it later. These are really strong. It's held up over like a year and a half so far. So the epoxy works great. Smart people came up with epoxy. I just came up with this idea of attaching these rivet nuts this way using epoxy. So yeah, we need 5 of these. So basically, you can. We use these to attach front and back to each other. So these are M6 by 20 millimeters. The ones I have here are the low profile head ones, but I think you can just use the regular profile head ones, and that's fine. I don't see that as an issue. We do have lock washers on here, and the thing I like about lock washers with all of this stuff in general is, especially with the plastic parts, it give you a sense of how tight to crank these bolts. So the plastic, if you don't have a lock washer on here, the plastic will give, and you can break a plastic part by trying to over tighten a bolt. But if you have this lock washer, especially on the smaller M4 ones that attach to the plastic parts, those, you just tighten it enough so that the lock washer is flat, and now you know that you have it tight enough that it will work fine. Use the lock washers, but we're just going to insert one here. I'm going to try to make this good television and actually show you some of the things happening. So I'm going to try to do it in some of these awkward positions. So anyhow, it goes without, maybe it goes without saying, maybe it doesn't, but I'm just starting from this being set up like this, not from scratch, but obviously you have all these flat. So I would just start with the bottom, put the front and back into these tabs, these little tabs here in front, and then we'll screw these in. So this one's already screwed in. You can see. Just make sure I have tightened these. So I'm going to do the back on the one I just put in. So I'll go over some of the other stuff that is going on here. So one way that the metal pieces attach to each other is through these aluminum tube struts. But another way is with these 3D printed brackets. So you see a bracket here, there's one in the front up here on the bottom. And then on this side piece, the way that the side piece is held on is with these little tabs like we have on the other pieces, but also we have this bracket here and a bracket here and a bracket here and a bracket here. And the way the bracket works is it has a little square nut, M4 square nut, that goes into the holes inside of the bracket. So you put the square nuts inside of the bracket, and then you can put these M4 by 12 millimeter bolts into those and just tighten them in. Put a little lock washer underneath those so that you know how tight to get them. And at first I thought these would have to be metal brackets, that they just wouldn't be stiff enough or hold up well enough or whatever, but I've been using these plastic ones for over a year now, and they're really great. They keep the frame rigid and square, and they've been really durable. And honestly, it's very hard to find like standardized just sheet metal L brackets that are a consistent dimension of where the holes are, how big the holes are, how big the metal around the holes is. And so printing them really lets us have a standardized part in a way that just finding random L brackets around the internet would not allow us to do. So we have 2 brackets here, we have 2 brackets here, 1 bracket here, 1 bracket here, and then you can see I have attached these 2 laser mounts to this frame, you can choose when to do this. I don't know if doing it at first is going to hurt or harm us now, because I've taken this apart in reverse order, and so we'll see what happens when we put it back together. But anyhow, the way these work is the same thing. M4 into there, and then we have M4 1, 2, 3, 4 with lock washers, and those are M4 by 12s bolts that go into there to hold on these rings. So the way these laser rings works is they have 1, 2, 3 little grub screws that change the angle by having 2 rings and 3 grub screws. It's just like any other telescope finder, the way that you change the position. Also, this laser itself has 2 controls that let you change the angle and to align it without having to mess with these. So you basically only have to get these into kind of a rough position if you're using this particular Pinty laser, and then you can actually use these knobs right here to align it when you get around to aligning it with your mirrors. What is that, buddy? Here, hang on a sec. He's got a headband. Not the headband, buddy. Pumpkin, come on. You don't want to eat a headband. That's not good. Here. Come on, buddy. That's a beautiful headband. We don't want to mess with that. Oh, here. Have one of these. Ooh, and one of these. And one of these. And one of these. Here, search. Okay. What do we have? What you want? What's in here? We got a little pig ear. Here. Here, buddy. Okay. Bet you didn't think there would be a flying pig's ear in this video, did you? Now, okay. So, yeah, so you just have to get these close to getting it through the hole, and then you're able to just get that. So you use the little grub screws, use the 2mm hex wrench in these M4 by 6mm grub screws to just tighten this in, and if you get it close enough, then you can just use these to adjust the laser. But if you're not close enough with these adjustments don't go far enough. We'll talk about aligning the laser later, but it might be good to like use a Sharpie on the back here. In fact, I'm going to do that right now just to show you what I'm talking about, because I think it's a good thing to do on my own. I think it's a good thing to do on my own. So if you just Sharpie, and this way we'll find out if it actually works. Let's Sharpie the back of this so that when we are adjusting our laser, we don't accidentally hurt our eyes with the laser light bouncing off of the aluminum and back at our eye. And I'm going to make a 3D printed part that goes on there so that people don't even have the option to hurt themselves. But also these Pinty units are not the ones that I'm using in the final. build, but these will go anywhere from, these can be anywhere from 5 milliwatts to 10 milliwatts when you buy them. So 5 milliwatts is okay for your eyes, 10 milliwatts very much is not okay for your eyes. So Sharpie over this, make that black, and then around the hole that it goes through, there's a little, so there's this hole that the laser shoots through, and I'll show you, maybe you can see where I've Sharpied in there, just to give you some eye protection when you're adjusting that laser. Okay, so anyhow, this is where we start building that frame. The other thing we have here, we have two pieces on here. We have, first off, let's talk about this plate. This, we have the bottom plate, and then we have this thicker 1/4 inch thick plate down here that is for mounting our quick release plate too. So the way that this thick aluminum piece here connects is with two M6x20 bolts that we just put them in through here and one here. Worked for me. That's been very solid over a year and a half with no adjustments whatsoever. I think I even forgot to put lock washers and it hasn't even budged. So, so you just do a nut, an M6 nut of any kind here and here. Doesn't have to be square, just put that together. And so that holds this plate onto here. You need that plate so that you get some distance between this surface and the mount, because some of those mounts kind of protrude up. So this is a quick release plate from my video head, my video tripod head. It's just standard video tripod head. It's a Manfrotto one, quick release plate that has been screwed in through this thick piece. This is actually tapped 1/4 20 so that any standard video quick release plate can be used right here. So you just tighten this in, make sure this is super tight with a coin or something, because you don't want this spinning around on you out when you're using this thing. So really crank this thing down, it's fine. Just make sure you're not cross-threading it, because you're putting probably this is probably steel, like zinc-coated steel, I would guess, or maybe even stainless, and this piece that we're screwing it into with the threads is aluminum, and you don't want to strip the threads in your aluminum with your steel. Okay, so, oh, and this piece over here that we are connected through this little, so the screw that holds on this bracket goes through this piece right here. And with this piece, we have a couple of flaps on the front of the EVA foam case that Velcro, and there's a piece of Velcro hooks here that goes in here. We cut a little hole in one of the Velcro pieces so that the M4 head can stick through it. And so you're gonna put this piece onto the bottom so that we can attach those wings for the case, and it just kind of helps cinch that up in front for us, so it's a nice clean look, and it helps keep the light from getting inside. So that's how that works. So that's what this piece is, and so we're putting one bolt through here, and then it's coming up through this bracket piece. And later on, or I guess not even later on, why don't right now, I'll put this bracket, the top part, we'll just screw that in there. Okay. Okay. So two of these on the bottom. Let these cure for 24 hours, by the way, the epoxy. Make sure those are really cured. Like I say, you get some extra for these rivet nuts. Get some extra of these rivet nuts, because they can, maybe not attach properly the first time, and you can pull them out. Test them, really test them, so that you don't want them pulling out on you while you're using the thing. You want to make sure it's a firm epoxy, and some of them will come out maybe if you don't get it perfect the first time, and then that rivet nut is basically junk because it's all covered in epoxy. Whereas with this, the epoxy usually sticks to the rivet nut and not the tube. It's easier to reuse the tube, but the rivet nut pretty much becomes junk after the first try, so you might have to get a fresh one. Anyhow, so we have one more of these to put in here, but we need to, before we attach it, we need to put our IPD adjustment housings front and back. So there's a front one and a back one, and look at the file names to tell which one it is. I guess I could show you. This one has a, so this one has a wall up front and this one has a wall up back. So I mean, they look pretty similar. This back one has a little hole in it here. So yes. Do I speak the truth? I think so. I think so. I must. Yeah. That must be the front one. Okay. Front and back. Yeah. Okay. So, front one, back one, front wall, back wall. We put these through. Just line it up. Get started. One annoying thing about these low profile M6 heads is they use a different size of hex wrench from the regular M6 socket heads. I don't know why that is, but okay, here's one. I'm not sure where my, there are going to be some things that I don't want to stop and go get more of something. So if I leave out, like here, I'm just leaving out a lock washer. So you should put a lock washer on yours, but I don't want to take time to go out to the garage and get another one. So there's that. So that one's in. I put one up here. Yeah, that's in. And so now these attach, so these IPD, units attach via, there are two M4 square nuts in here, so put square nuts in here. Actually, it looks like one fell out on me here, so let's do that. So just hold your fingers over those holes if they're loose and they fall out easily. So these are M4 by 25s I'm putting in. The M4 by 25 goes all the way through that just for extra stability. Just helps keep this part in place. To have that, why not have that bolt running all the way through the part? To relieve some of the pressure for the plastic to do that job, right? Just kind of stiffens the part using fasteners. And you know, that's one of the things that people don't think about with 3D printing is like, how can we stiffen the part using the hardware we're putting in? If it's fasteners or stuff like that, something you can always think about. Okay, so I'm just going to do this one back again. We're going to get our M4 by this one, M4 by 25. Okay, so IPD units are in. That's that. I haven't really thought about the order in which to do any of this yet. So apologies, there's going to be some like, okay, what should I do next? Let's talk about putting together the frame. Let's talk about mirrors. Let's just get this out of the way. So here are mirrors. This is our mirror assembly. So we have a mirror. This is the 60 millimeter mirror. There's also a 50 millimeter mirror. The 60 millimeter mirror goes down here. The 50 millimeter mirror goes on our sliding side. And so what we have is the mirror. We have a mirror mount, and then we have this, which is called a tailgate. And that is, this tailgate is what connects to the frame through these three bolts here, here, and here. And we just have holes in the sides here where we pop M4 screws in. That one already has one. This one needs one. So the way this works is we use our jig to glue this onto here. We use silicone to do that. 100% silicone. If you want the fancy stuff, it's Dow Corning 732, but anything from the hardware store works fine too. We have a jig. I don't know where my jig for this style is right now, so sorry, but basically the jig is like a thing that this can sit down into, and then we put glue here, here, and here, and set it down in. So before we do that though, let's start, let's go back one step. So this mirror mount is actually a big screw. So we're going to put an M4 by 25 in through the top of this mirror mount before there's a mirror on it. It's going to go through here, and you're going to put an M4 bolt, M4 nut into the side here. There's not a hole on this one, but on the files that I've given you, there is a hole to put an M4 nut into here. We're going to make this into a thumb screw using thread lock. So you get your thread lock, and you put your nut into the side here, push it all the way in with your 2 millimeter hex wrench, and then you are going to screw in the M4 by 25 bolt in through the top all the way down into there, and then about 4 millimeters from the top of the head of the M4 by 25, before you screw it all the way in, give it like 4 or 5 millimeters, and put some thread lock, just a couple of drops of thread lock onto that, and then screw it the rest of the way down in. You don't want to put thread lock on the end of the threads, because that still has to go into the tailgate, and we don't want to have thread lock on those, dried up on those threads, because we have to screw in down here later on. So first step to putting this mirror assembly together, take this, put an M4 nut into it. M4 by 25 goes into the top. When you put some thread lock, like right about here, like count down 3 or 4 threads, and put a drop of thread lock right here, screw it in the rest of the way, let that sit overnight, and now this is easy to screw into this, because you can see we have a spring. I don't know if you can see the spring there, but you have 2 springs. One spring goes into this one spring goes into the other one. The spring goes in between this tailgate and this guy to provide the tension in the middle, and then these 3, well, I guess we'll go into that later, but that's what that post is for in the middle. That M4 by 25 we put in is just to connect it to the tailgate. So before we connect that to the tailgate though, we have to mount the mirror to this. So you have a jig that basically is a shape so that you can put this into it, set it down in there with the M4 by 25 already in there, because you can't put it in after we mounted the mirror, right? Because it goes in through the top. So you're going to put this down into the jig, and then you are going to glue into the 3 holes. There are 3 holes besides the one in the middle for the bolt. and they're just like 1, 2, 3. And so those holes go down deep inside of this mount, and they actually have little concavities in there that are larger than the holes that you see, and those create a plug. If you fill those cavities all the way, it creates a plug in the bottom here so that it's harder to pull out. We have a low surface tension material here in the plastic, so the silicone has a harder time bonding with it. It bonds great to the glass, and usually these are made of metal, and so metal is a higher surface energy material than plastic, so we have to give it more of a surface area to help it bond to the plastic. So those holes help us, give us more surface area to connect to, and also the plug at the bottom gives us a certain amount of security because that's not going to pull out of there. You're not going to break your silicone in that fashion. It's very sturdy stuff. So squeeze in, fill those holes well, and then leave enough of a little like Hershey's Kiss looking or wizard hat looking kind of thing on the top. Leave plenty here on top so that it squishes. So you'll see there's a gap here. How much gap do we leave? Well, the jig takes care of that for you. Also, the jig aligns this to this. So all you have to do, put this into the jig, put in the 3 globs of silicone, and then you're going to set this down into the jig. There's a lip that will hold this just in place, and it makes sure that this is oriented perfectly to this and is the correct distance between the two as well. So you should see these pads of silicone squish nicely and create, like, I don't know, 10 to 15 millimeter little globs in between the two. And we let that cure for 24 hours and make sure it's nice and cured. And then these two are stuck together. One thing, though, you can do actually to help the adhesion, I usually sand the front face of this plastic mirror mount lightly before doing the glue. So I sand it and then wipe it with IPA. And that sanded texture just gives it a little extra something to hang on to, I think. I think it makes a difference. So we've glued up this mirror for 24 hours to cure. Now we have the mirror attached to this. We have a M25 bolt coming through this. So now you see the way that we attach this mirror mount to this tailgate is we have 1, 2, 3 screws that go through the tailgate, and then they touch the back surface of this mirror mount. So the screw that goes through the middle that we put in there already, that is pulling the mirror mount toward the tailgate this way. That screw pulls it this way. And then these 3 screws push the other direction. So with that pull-push, you have a tension to keep the mirror properly aligned at all times. And because we're really working against the kind of compressive forces of the plastic, it's pretty strong. It doesn't creep as well, so this holds up pretty well. So anyhow, and that's how we can tweak the angle of this mirror too, is by adjusting these 3 screws. We basically want this bottom surface of this purple thing to be parallel to this surface. So what I do is I screw all 3 of those in the same amount first, screw this in, screw this in, screw this in to where we want it. I will get back to you on what that distance is between these two, and I'm probably going to also make you up a jig really quick that helps you align this properly in rotation to this tailgate. I just never got around to doing that. I eyeballed it. Well, actually, I use little dimples on the back of this to do that alignment, but that doesn't work that great. So I'll make you a jig that gets the thickness correct and also the rotation, so that this is rotated correctly to this is rotated correctly to this, so that you don't have to think about those things. So then basically all you are doing is you're going to, hey buddy, You're going to screw in these 3 screws, 2 of the M4x12s and 1 of these thumb screws. This thumb screw, so we build this thumb screw the same way we built this thing, except it's easier. We put a M4 nut. We put an M4 nut on the bottom here. As you can see, there's one in there, and then it doesn't have the sticker on it. You just put an M4x25 through the top, and then you just put a drop of thread lock right down here to seal that up. Just put a drop or 2 of thread lock in here, and just tighten that in there, and now you have a thumb screw. So we put this thumb screw in, we screw it in, try to get all of those as level as possible, and then I'll have that jig for you that just gets this mirror in here the correct amount. So it looks like this tailgate uses a little slot for putting a so I kind of have 2 different styles here for you in version 1. I apologize for that. This one, you put a nut into this hole and then drop it down into here, and then what you do is you just twist this mirror onto here to get it to the right to get it attached to these 2. And the other one works a different way. But we'll get to that. So 3 screws into here, M4x12, M4x12, M4x25 thumb screw that we've constructed, and then you got to make sure you get this spring inside between here and here, and there's a little concavity that helps that stay put as you screw this on. And then once this is in the right place with the jig I give you and is touching the surface of these these screws, what I want you to do is screw this in like 2 more full rotations. So screw this one 2 more rotations, screw this one 2 more rotations, screw this one 2 more rotations once it is on there correctly. Because what that's going to do for you is give you some room to work with. Just create some extra tension so that when you adjust this knob, you still maintain some tension in these 2 screws later on. So just to be clear, the reason that this is a thumb screw and these are not thumb screws is that this is the vertical merging. So when you're trying to align the images in your binoculars, they might be a little off up and down, they might be a little off left and right. So this one on this mirror controls the up and down adjustment. The other mirror has a horizontal that controls the left and right adjustment. And so this allows you to easily in the field adjust that either for your own personal vision or for different eyepieces or what have you. Some people are different and they need different adjustments, and it's silly that astronomy binoculars don't have those, but there you go. Anyhow, let's continue attaching. So 1, 2, 3 of these go in here to these lugs on the outside, and then we're just going to put this through here. And then we're going to use M4x12s. And we're going to screw these in through the back. Let's do this one closest to me first so I can get it in there. Hey. And I'm sorry, these ones are a little finicky on this particular version, but version 2 we're going to make them less finicky. Pretty much eliminated anything that's even remotely tiresome from magic through the course of making it so a 9-year-old can do it. And so all of those innovations are going to come to the final version of this heart binocular. You are getting the version 1 that I put together. which works great. It's held together. It's very sturdy. It's worked beautifully. It just takes someone who's a little more patient or used to this kind of stuff to get there to the finish line. And then you'll have something that works great. So as you can see, I just put 3 of these M4 by 12s into that tailgate to make that go in there. 1, 2, 3. And this is feeling like it's going to be another 2-hour video. So that's one of those. Let us continue on this side. So we have, let's put, now we have a mirror, let's put a lens in the front. So, what we need to do is put some nuts in so that the mirror will stay in with our lens cell front. So basically this is the back of the lens cell. And we have 1, 2, with telescopes there's usually just 3 of stuff, because 3 points determines a plane, and so we're usually working with 3 of stuff to keep everything lined up and planar to each other. Whereas if you introduce more, now you pretty much by definition are dealing with a non-planar surface, unless you have like a NASA-sized budget. And probably theirs are non-planar and they have fancy ways of dealing with that. Anyhow, we've put 3 of these guys into here, and so this is our lens cell. You'll see that this covers, so basically this is the back, the lens we're going to put into here, and then this goes over the front, and so that makes a sandwich, a lens sandwich. Now you'll see that there are these 3 things here that have an M4 nut, a hole for that, and my plan had been to use 6 screws in what they call a push-pull configuration to adjust the alignment of the lens to the mirror. The way it works in reality with plastic is that you're deforming the plastic more so than moving the mirror around when you use this kind of configuration. And so I'm just using pull. So I'm just using 3 nuts that, or three bolts. That has worked fine. Everything is in collimation well enough. In fact, when you buy these lenses, I buy these lenses through AliExpress, bare, but if you buy them through like Surplus Shed, you get them inside of a plastic housing. In fact, on AliExpress they sell the plastic housing as well, but a lot of kit telescopes that use this exact lens use a completely plastic housing where the front just threads in, and it works fine because at f5 it really just doesn't matter that much. So anyhow, that is all a long-winded way to say don't bother putting the nuts into this piece because you don't need them, because you're not going to put your you're not going to screw in these ones, these 1, 2, 3. Now what I did, the reason these stick up is to give you a guide for your for your wrench, so that you don't accidentally slip and hit your lens with your wrench. So that's a nice security feature, because I thought this was going to be the primary way of adjusting them. But this is the push ones, so these are the wrong ones. So on the next version I have to put this, over here. So you are going to screw into these bare holes where you might accidentally hit your lens. So just be careful and don't accidentally hit your lens for your build, okay? You can see it's a weird shape, and so that is going to help you align these 2 pieces together pretty easily, because you can just tell what the weird shape is. So let's put a lens in here, and that's why we have fish food, of course. So we're just going to do one of these, and you should be wearing gloves when you touch your lenses. Oh, well, let's back up a second. Sorry, I should show you. You should be wearing gloves when you work with or touch these lenses. I'm not doing it because I'm just too lazy to get up right now and get some nitrile gloves. But there's a curvy side and a flat side. The curvy side goes out into space. The flat side goes back. So set the flat side down on your fish food, and then just lift up this, get it right, and then you'll probably have to just gently, using your fingers inside of your glove is fine, but you'll want to just gently press this. It might, depending on how it was printed, it might just slide in, or it might need to be helped in. So mine actually just went in. It did not need that help, but I just wanted to check to make sure that was the case, because I just printed this new big black thing. So which way does the shape go? Let's see if I can do kindergarten. Okay, so that goes on there, and that just drops onto the front of the, and you know what we should do first? Let's be nice to ourselves and let us put those M4 by 25s into these holes first before we drop that in there, okay? So M4 by 25, I wouldn't worry about doing a lock nut, but you could. If you do, let me know how that goes. So we're just going to drop that into here, and now you can screw into the nuts that we put in earlier. This is going to go really long. Thought it might be quicker, but it still is just takes longer to build something than to take it apart. Okay, so this is where you do want to make sure that you have pushed these nuts all the way into here. Otherwise these just aren't going to go into the holes. Let's see what we got. It helps to have a long M3 wrench like this one I'm using, so that down into there. Why aren't you going down into there, man? You do generally want to check to make sure that there aren't like little wispy plastic obstructions inside of a bolt hole, because those can keep your bolt from going in and tightening onto the nut. So obviously, as with everything, but especially as we're doing this lens cell, don't tighten it all the way until you have all of them. And you don't have to get that tight on this. Don't over tighten the cell, because that still could sort of like deform the glass. Maybe, probably, I don't know. You don't want to put a bunch of pressure on your glass. And super high-end telescopes that you buy with lenses, the lenses actually rattle a little bit, because they, the metal and glass expand and contract at different rates in the cold when we're outside at night. And so you want to allow for that, expansion and contraction is why those rattle in. If you bought like a $10,000 refractor, you hear a little tick tick. Now of course our lens cell is plastic, and so it's not, that expansion and contraction factor isn't as big a deal because the plastic is just going to deform if it comes into pressure with the glass. But still, don't tighten it down too far because you don't want them, they don't have to be tight, it's just kind of holding it in place. So if rattling is good enough for a $10,000 telescope, it's definitely good enough for what we're doing here, to just get it tight enough so that it's staying in one place. And this one is giving me trouble, I don't know why. Maybe the nut isn't all the way in. That's probably it. So check to make sure that your nuts are all the way in, that they haven't slipped out. There's going to be a lot of gags in this. A lot of goofs and spoofs. But we're seeing in real time how I'm sitting here thinking, maybe there's a little better way to do this. So, version 2 is not going to work exactly this way, so I don't think it's that big a deal. It's just annoying right now. So let's go, buddy. This is getting to be a long run time already. Ready to spin. I'm going to leave all of this in just because I don't have time in my life to sit down and edit what is probably going to be a 2-hour video. So you get to watch me just struggle with my own thing, embarrassingly. Let's see, the hole looks clean. This 3mm goes down into there. 2mm feels like it's pushed all the way in there. So sometimes just resetting, taking the screw out and just firming things up a little bit with the nut will do the trick. Okay, I think that's biting down into the nut now, so where is it? Is it just hitting in? Oh, come on, little buddy, help me out. I guess the rotation on that. It's a little unclear on that. Not exactly how it's supposed to be rotated. Maybe you're sitting at home having trouble with this too. We can have trouble with it together. Just make sure you don't drop your wrench onto your lens. That's the important part. Wouldn't it be cool if you were putting this down into those nice protective guards that I put on the other ones? I thought those were going to be the adjustment screws for this whole thing, but that's not how it ended up going down. So it's just going to go just, sometimes also just putting your wrench down through there, what that can help do is align the nut better. because your 3mm is able to get down into that hole, and maybe do just a final alignment tweak on that nut that you're not able to do by pushing it from the outside. It's always a struggle between, do I make the hole tight so that the nut doesn't fall out, versus do I make the hole loose so that it's easy for you to screw into the nut. And so I actually make different holes, different widths with that in mind. And I'm starting to feel like maybe this is one where we should have loose holes so that the nuts go in there easy and they're able to wiggle around as you try to screw down into them to make it easier. This video is also just going to be my notes for how I tweak everything for the final release. So thanks for giving me the motivation to do that. Alright. Okay, so that's in. So we are now going to, we're going to attach the clamp to the back. The clamp is what helps hold on the, this helps hold on the EVA shroud that goes on the back to, it goes on the back to, that just it goes between here and the mirror so that there isn't a bunch of light bouncing around inside the binoculars and degrading the image. Just helps to keep things dark and punchy. I see this top one is screwed in a bit much, so this is where also if that is coming through a little too much, you can just back that off. If that nut on the inside is coming through too much, I mean. So we're just going to, is there a front or a back to this thing? Oh yeah, there is a front. So the front is the side with these little holes. So let's just put this on here real quick. So that goes on there. So the reason there are little holes in these wings is that we want to put our piece of EVA foam, and it gets held underneath these wings. And I don't have that piece of foam on me. For some reason mine doesn't have that in there, because I don't know why. Probably at some point I took it off to make some adjustment and never put it back on and lost it. But you are going to cut yours from your template, and it's going to go from here to here. And so then you trap. I'll show you on the other one how you do it. But basically these holes in here just give you extra leverage. It's easier if you're doing this yourself to like feed the EVA in there and then pull this up using your 2mm hex key, put into this hole. Just makes it easy for you to do with your hands. Alright, so now we have this lens assembled in here, and what we're going to do is we are going to let's see. I guess I am going to do some editing, because this is just agonizing. There's no reason to put people through this. Why doesn't it go in? It's the same depth as the others. It looks centered to me. It looks like it's right on center. It's just, and that couldn't be more centered, could it? Jesus. Oh, hallelujah, Jesus. Okay. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to connect this to the front. The way that is going to work is we're going to put a nut in here and make sure that nut goes all the way in with our 2mm hex wrench. Oops, but don't be nice to it, don't break your part. So provide pressure from the back and provide pressure from the back and make sure you get that in there all the way. And then we're going to put one in here. Another one of those ones where looser is better, honestly, but too late for that. So there are 1, 2 that we put in now. And then a third one we're going to put in just a minute. But basically we have 1, 2, and then this is going to go in here like this. There's this concavity that goes over this strut. And so then we are just going to use M4. What is that? Is that an M4 by 12? Looks like M4 by 12 fits. Let's see. Is that going to bite? It doesn't need to be longer. Believe it or not, I don't remember every single length. And I'm not sure if it's not biting just because the nut is not aligned, so let's try this bottom one. It looks like I made it for 12, not for 25. I usually do something that's almost just to fool you. But let's try a 25 and see if we have any more left. I'm having trouble just because the nut is not in there sufficiently. Oh yeah, the nut is off by a mile. So just make sure you push the nut in all the way. Another way that you can get these nuts seated in here is, you can push from this side and it can be hard, but if you use a little leverage from a hex key, you can just put it in the front and just twist, just pull it down a little bit. Use leverage to pull it down. Don't be too rough on it because you don't want to hurt your part. But this is a great way to do it. You can start with a 2mm hex key. and then finish with a 3mm. Okay, and now I will be very surprised if M4x12 doesn't work on this. Of course, I've been surprised before, so it also wouldn't be the first time I've been surprised. Let's see. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's try M4x25. Definitely be one of those ones that's looser, so it's easier to get the alignment correct. So I think it just needs to come in. Let's test. So here's another thing you can do. You probably know this. You're probably staring at the television saying, hey, dummy, do this. Put the screw in first. Make sure that the bolt works. And then put the part in. To which I say, there's no need for name calling. Yeah, that one doesn't want to come in yet. There's a little push. I did not clear out any of the little loose gunk from the inside of this hole, so that's probably some of what we're getting is that there's a little bit of filament sometimes inside these little holes for the nuts, and so that makes it hard to push the nut in all the way. I should anticipate and make the holes a little deeper. That's what I should start doing, isn't it? Okay, so now that goes in. Alright, one thing I'm going to do real quick, I just realized I didn't flip around my monitor, so I'm not even seeing what I'm doing here. And I can't even see whether or not you can see what I'm doing. I did that. I had it flipped around from the beginning on the other video, but I guess I'm feeling really cocky about my presenting skills here, so let's flip around that monitor. Boop, boop, boop. Alright, we've been going an hour. We have almost nothing done. Great. Good. Okay. Okay, so one last attempt at this 12mm. Yeah, I don't. I don't think so. So I don't know, an M4x12 might work. If it does, I would probably use one of those instead of a 25. If I were you. Okay, so that's that. And there should be a black washer underneath that. Oh yeah, see that M4x12 work fine. So use M4x12s. I don't want to take time to take, well, shoot, let's just do it. Because there should be a lock washer on there anyhow. I'll just do it. Alright, I can't be lazy every time. Okay. It's right at the end, so it's kind of, the challenge is getting it to bite. Right at the end of the, there we go. Okay, bingo. Alright, one more. Oh, that's why I didn't put that. Is that true? Is that true? Oh, that's not. So there's one more in there that's supposed to go into the bottom. That's why there's a little hole there, and you'll see that there's a hole in the frame. But I didn't compensate for that when I made this 5 millimeters longer so that we could move the lens back 5 millimeters. So what you have is a system that works fine with just this one and this one. That's the way I've been using it for 18 months, and this holds on here fine. Okay, so that's attached. Let's just keep making this particular telescope. And we're going to do that with this piece is going to go on next. And this is what connects to our focuser. So let's build a focuser real quick. Let's build the one that's broken. I broke one of my focusers when I Hey buddy, I'm right here. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. Okay. I broke one of my focuser draw tubes when I dropped this thing for the third time. So, we'll get a new one. Fresh one. Yeah, I know where to go. So, the way you take these supports out is just pull this back, this clamp back to break the bond with this support material, and then the support is kind of stuck on here, so we're just going to gently remove that with our, usually the support doesn't stick on here so hard, but for some reason this one is really stuck. Here we go. Where's the other? Oh. That's true. I'm going to need some pliers real quick to get the support off. It's really on me. Yeah, I'm right here. You don't have to get up every time I get up, buddy. It's okay. I'm right here. I'm just walking out there and in here. It's okay, I promise. Alright, got a couple extra parts too. Let's peel off these little support materials in here. Okay, got off the support materials. Let's build a focuser. Focusers are pretty straightforward. We have the short focuser piece, and then we have the long focuser piece. We put a nut into the short focuser piece, then we get an M4 by 12. Don't worry about a lock washer on this M4 by 12 because we're not getting it too tight anyhow. I'm going to screw these together through the long focuser part into the short focuser part, but we're not going to screw it tight, just enough to hang onto that nut because we need to slip this in here. The reason it's two pieces is that there is a stop at the top and the bottom here to keep you from screwing it in too far or screwing it all the way out. And so basically what we do is we want to pop this in here so that it's just so it's perpendicular, and you hear it will make that nice popping sound when it's in straight. And then we just twist this around to close that up. And this is a brand new, so we're not going to tighten that too tight. This is a brand new draw tube, so it's going to be a little rough, so you can go back and forth from one end to the other a couple hundred times to kind of smooth that out if you want. And it'll naturally do that with use anyhow, which is a very polite way of saying littering microplastics all around the planet we inhabit. So there's that. So this screws into this housing with a couple of M4 by 25s. We put a nut here and we put a nut here, and then we have to do let's do the magnets real quick. So these are your filter cartridges for your special nebula filters. These slip into here like this. I think the part that I'm giving you is the prototype that has these little knobs on the sides. Yeah, so this part has these little knobs on the sides that are just like a pressure fit for this. I was playing around with that to see if we can just eliminate the magnets altogether, but the problem with that is that it's really hard to get that so that it goes in smooth without moving the binoculars. You know, to use, it has to be strong enough to hold it in, but not too much force that you move the binoculars when you put it in. And it's too clunky. So what I would do, there's these 1, 2, 3, 4 little tabs in here. I would use your hobby knife and just cut those out of this part. Just cut it flush to the edge, because we're sticking with magnets is basically what's going on. We're going to stick with the magnets. So this has 3 magnets inside of it. on the bottom of it. We put the 3 magnets in here. We want to make sure they're lined up, make them all the same orientation. And then we want these to go into here. There are 3 magnets that go into here. 1, 2, 3, and we got to make sure that they're the same alignment so that they go in tight. You just push them in. It should be a friction fit. If your printer printed these a little bit loose, then you're just going to need a little bit of CA glue in the bottom, 1 drop of CA glue in the bottom of each of those holes. That is super glue. Will hold those magnets in fine. So now we have 3 magnets in here, and now the magnets grab each other. And I wish I had my hobby knife on me because I would cut these stupid tabs out right now. But basically the other thing the magnets do is that they align this optic really nicely to our optical path so that the light is hitting it in a perpendicular fashion, which is very important for the filter to actually work properly. That's the other reason that I think the little pressure springs are kind of a bust, because they don't guarantee that perpendicularity. So anyhow, I'm going to set that aside. Basically, take your magnets, put your magnets in here. Magnets go into those filter cartridges, and now we're going to put our focuser on M4 by 25. Don't worry about a lock washer on this one, because honestly there's just not enough of an issue with the focuser coming off, but I guess you could put one if you really wanted to. Where did my 2mm go? Here's my 2mm hex. Pumpkin, did you grab my 2mm hex? Oh, here it is. Alright. Okay. Alright, guys. There's that. Here's this. I guess if you put a lock washer in there, the head of the M4 by 25 would not be flush. So I guess I should say specifically don't put a lock washer in there, because then the head's not going to be flush. I guess in Heart it doesn't really matter because there's space, but in Magic that would be a build fail. I don't use lock washers on anything in Magic because it's all plastic construction and it holds together fine on its own without any lock washers. Okay, so this is a unit now, so we're going to put, we have a nut that went into the back here, so make sure you put that nut in first before you put this on, otherwise you're going to have to take it back off. So there's a nut that goes into this here, and there's a nut that goes into here for this hole. So there's 2 of those on this one. I don't know why there are 2. I put 3 holes. I don't know why there are 2 on the bottom, but hey buddy, it's alright. It's alright. Is Mama coming home for lunch? Is that who you hear? No? Is it something else? So we're going to put these in, and it looks like make an M4 by, let's see, does M4, I'm not going to say anything until it's in there and it's working. This filter tray goes through this hole in this wall here, so that's why it's levitating right now. In case you were wondering. I don't know, was I just not even having the hole aligned? Is that what was happening? Yeah, see, it's a little challenging to get the hole aligned, isn't it? See, it just wouldn't make any sense for this not to be an M4 by 12, would it? But maybe what I did doesn't. Oh wait, maybe it does make sense, because then this is that concept of the M4 by 25 helping to stabilize the whole part by just going deeper into the part, and the parts staying square is assisted by the hardware itself. So let's see, definitely lock washer on this. Okay, so now this guy is mounted up here. So our eyepiece goes into this. So our eyepiece goes in here, and now we have a full telescope here. We have a lens, lights coming in through here, bounces off the mirror straight up into here, and then if we want a filter, we're just going to pop that filter in here. Voila. Okay, so that's one telescope. So let's build a second telescope. This is a 2-telescope system. So I have not disassembled this fully, and I don't see any need to disassemble this fully because we are doing the exact same thing back here. We have this part is all one piece. That is the clip for the shroud, which I will actually be able to show you. So the shroud, just so you know, is this EVA material right here, 2mm EVA material, and so theoretically that would go between here and here. Now, I don't know where my clamp piece is for this. I guess I took it off at some point and never put it back on out of laziness or time crunch. Let's start calling it time crunch. That sounds more like kind, I guess. So there's a piece that you've probably printed that is a clamp that just fits around this tailgate. So there's a clamp in the back, there's a clamp in the front, and then you are going to put that EVA in there. We're going to show you how to do that on this one because we do have the clamps and all the stuff. So this is one of the clamps that holds this EVA on for the top part. And so we put our short one on here, we put our 2 long ones on here. There's this back plate, you see here's the back plate, and pretty normal stuff. This purple part under here, I like having all these color-coded parts. I think I'm going to do that for the heart build. So this is the top part of the IPD adjustment. This has these little teeth in here. You need to like glue, like either super glue or use your silicone, a thin layer of silicone, really thin layer of silicone, so that the teeth don't get maybe just use super glue. Just use super glue for this. Super glue this in. It should fit pretty tight anyhow. Maybe you don't even need to, but a couple dots of super glue on the inside of this part wouldn't hurt. This piece that I have here has this oilite bearing in here. The part that I have given you, it just is all 3D printed. It doesn't need this bearing because I was just concerned about it being smooth, but it's plenty smooth just to use plastic rather than this bearing. And so yours is shaped a little differently, but it works exactly the same way, so we don't have to talk about that. basically we have these little shafts, these aluminum shafts. Again, I have given you 3D printed files to print these, but this is going to move back and forth on these shafts inside of these holes. And I mean the aluminum ones are super smooth, but I think probably I should probably get one of those plastic ones right now and we'll find out how smooth it is, won't we? When I put it together, I'm going to do that while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, so yours looks like this. Here's a plastic one, and here is, yours is all plastic here. It has this little point, but it's the exact same thing. It's just going back and forth on this. And so, let's see. Ooh, that's kind of stiff to my light. I don't like that right now. I don't have time to sand this thing. I would probably, you could experiment with sanding the layer lines off of this, like sanding the outside of it to make it smoother. Or I can tell you what these aluminum pieces are, but I'm just going to stick with my aluminum for now because I want to actually use this thing soon and show you one that works nicely. Okay, so this clamp goes on here, and so put the clamp, put this piece. You can tell the orientation of this because this little cutout here goes down. Yeah, so the cutout is for this down one. This sandwich goes into the front of this. I don't know if you can see the detail. Mine is broken because I've dropped it 3 times, and so I found out there's a little weak spot here that we'll figure out how to address for when people drop theirs 3 times. But anyhow, oh yeah, the IPD just connects onto here using, it must be N4x25s. So 2 nuts into here and then N4x25s, I'm guessing. Whereas these are M4x12s up here. That go into here. So yes, 2 M4x12s up there. 2 M4x25s back here, and these were probably M4x12s, I'm guessing. So here's a completed focus there. We're just going to put this on here. I'm running out of M4x25s, am I? Is that true? That's concerning. Shouldn't run out. I shouldn't run out of this because I took this apart, but maybe one is just misplaced, so I'll have to go get another one. But that probably means that's the last M4x25. I didn't use too many of those. Didn't end up using too many of those, but mostly just using them structurally. Just make sure you kind of align this. Don't make sure this is sort of aligned parallel to this bottom housing. Line up this side so it's exact. That will help your life. I'm gonna go get another M4x25. Be right back. Okay, here we go. This must be the last one. And I must have either misplaced one or come up one short, which, though it does beg the question because we got to put the other lens in its cell. That must use M4x25s, right? So maybe, is that 3 short? Could possibly be 3 short. Okay. There's that. We got a focuser on there. That's the back pretty much figured out. And this one is labeled rear IPD thing. There's only one of these because the other one is just built into the lens cell. Let's take a look at the lens cell now, I suppose. This is our lens cell, I think. Oh, that's right. I need to adjust this real quick because mine is 5 millimeters off from where it needs to be now that we've done the new thing on the other side. So I moved the lenses back 5 millimeters so that I would have more in travel for people with glasses who like to take them off to use the binoculars. There's people with glasses who are just nearsighted or whatever, or farsighted, so you take the glasses off and then they can focus and then it works out. I have extreme astigmatism in both my eyes, so I don't have that option. I have to have correction. So that is not how I use things, but after trying to share the views in this thing through people who insist on taking off their glasses and then not being able to come to focus, we've removed 5 millimeters from the length. Okay, guys, I guess we'll cut that. We'll cut a good chunk of that. Here is your lens cell. Again, yours will not have an oilite bearing in here, but basically you need to put, it goes like this. You're going to need to put a little, I can't remember if I fused these together for you or if you are going to, if this part and this part, so I have 2 parts here. I can't remember what I gave you. I'll have to take a look. But if these 2 parts are fused together like this for you, then you are good to go. But if these 2 are not fused together, what you're going to need to do is put nuts, 3 nuts in here, and then you're going to go like this, and then you're going to put this together with an M4 by 25. Don't worry about a lock washer, but you can put one if you want. I guess it's not going to vibrate apart. I don't think that's even physically possible. So there's that. And now I seem to have a ring here for mine. I did this for mine. I don't know. I might have fused all of this together for you so you don't have to worry about this, but that's starting to feel like what happened, so maybe you don't have to do any of that stupid stuff right now. But, okay, so we have a lens cell, and so we also have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take, like I said before, I don't know if I cut the part where I explained that I'm upgrading this because I moved these things 5. I moved these lenses back 5 for people with glasses. And so I haven't done that yet on mine. People with glasses like to take them off and look through the binoculars without glasses on because they have simple eye problems like nearsightedness or farsightedness. I do not. I have very extreme and somewhat complex stigmatism, and so I have to have correction at all times. But I've had enough people look through these now and ask about glasses on or glasses off, and people prefer glasses off, but you need that extra in travel if your eyes are messed up. So, alright, that's garbage now. So let's put our three, I think I gave you a fused together one, so you didn't have to worry about those first 4x25s, but, or that little spacer ring. I think it's starting to come together in my mind. We're going to put one, oof, those are tight. I like the tight ones because they don't move on you, but the looser ones sure are nicer to put in. Alright, you need to get in there. Yeah, there's two. This is three. It's just like we're yeah. Oops. Guess I should check the mail. Okay, that's pretty much in there. That's in there. That's in there. Let's check. Let's sometimes one way to align these is to get these threaded by hand, get them started threaded, and just by threading them, you align the nut with the hole. So I need to put that in my super tips video for magic. Sometimes just screwing into them first lets you line them up if they just don't want to get perfectly into that hole. But I feel like people are also frustrated when they keep slipping out. And so, right, those all look good to me. I think those are going to work. Okay, so let's mount the lens first. So, fish food, wear gloves. Is this the new one? I hope this is the new one. I guess I'm about to find out, right? All right. Let's see. So, this one is a little different because we need our metal piece. Okay, so the metal piece lines up. And then this one goes down over top of that. And how do we know where these line up? I think because, yeah, so this lines up. Okay. This front cell has these little indents for these different screws, and you can see the big one over here lines up with this M6. This one lines up with this M4 because those are going to attach something else into there in a little bit, and we need room for that. so, and then this little baby one up here aligns to this hole up here. I don't have that quite right here, so let's just, okay, let's see what happens. Let's align these first. Let's align the holes. So you see these line up. What I'm talking about is there's a little nub here that cut out for that. There's a line here that cut out for that. And, you know, that means this black nut has space, right? Because we're keeping it tight here. Okay, so let's put that on here now. And that is just going to pressure fit in there. It's a little tight by design. And then are these going to be, I very believe these are going to be in 4x12s. Let's find out together. I also very believe that they maybe should have, no. Okay, let's try this one first. Sometimes you just angle it a little bit to make that connection with the nut, and then you can pull the nut into alignment. I've lost alignment with the lens cell. Let's see. Let's do it this way. Maybe I'll cut that. I kind of want to do it this way because you don't want to lose your surely you don't want to lose your lens accidentally by doing this. So are these lined up? That's the first question. Let's do this. Let's make sure that this can go into, that this even can go into here, because the nut is aligned. I gotta start making more space for the nuts rather than an exact, I mean, it's not really an exact measurement, but I need to get a little more space for the nuts. Okay, so that is pulling that into 138. How much room we got on this card? So I think that means if it's 138, that means we're coming up on 2 hours here. So this is going to be like a 3 hour to build this darn thing. Jeez. Okay. So those seem to all align. This seems to go like this. Yeah. So that's, when you're doing this, you should probably be, I guess you should be wearing nitrile gloves because you're pretty close to this lens and you really don't necessarily want to mess up the, you don't want to touch your lens if you don't have to. Like, honestly, these are $27 lenses and it's, they have a protective coating on them, and it's not that big a deal if you touch them, quite honestly, but left telescope school if you don't make an effort to wear gloves around optics, I think. So you're seeing some real unauthorized behind the scenes stuff here. So we're just putting M4x12s into this lens cell. Keep it on there. And so this, yeah, not too tight, just leave it, let it be, it's gonna be all right. Okay, so we have a lens in there now, yeah? Use a squeezy to get the dust. So we built this, right? And now there are holes. So you can see that there are, make sure that this lens cell and this aluminum part are really well lined up. And if you have to back off, let's back off. Now that we have this lens cell in place, let's back off these a little bit so we have a little breathing room. Just back off these. The lens isn't going to go anywhere. But that lets us line these all up real perfect. Okay? They need to be lined up perfect because they are about to go on the end here. So we're going to, I know you probably can't, you can't see that. Let me put it in my lap. Okay, so we're just going to put these through the holes in the lens cell. And then we got one potato. Two potato. And where is the third potato? Definitely should be a third potato. I took it apart. And it theoretically should go back together, right? Let's go see. We got 16 minutes left on the card. Okay. I'm going to pause the video here for now because I got stuff to do, but I hope this has been wildly entertaining for you so far. No cap, it is pretty fun to build a telescope, and I think it's pretty cool to be able to put together these two individual halves and then bring them together lovingly. We almost have a telescope here. We just need to pop this tailgate in. This tailgate works basically the exact same way as the other one, but with a couple of differences. One is we have a cutout here in the back where what you do is you just push this this mirror mount through, and then you just tighten the nut onto the back here with your own finger, rather than spinning the mirror onto here. And so that is actually a better way to do it, but you can see we don't put the thing in yet because it doesn't fit through the hole. The thumb screw, we don't put the thumb screw in yet because it doesn't fit through the hole. But so that's the only difference in building this one, is that this nut, you just screw the nut on instead of screwing the whole mirror on. I'm not going to go into it now why it is that way. That is the way that both of them will be in the future. But anyhow, we put this in here. This one doesn't have pockets for the little M4 nuts. I apologize for that. You're going to see why I developed pockets and started putting pockets on everything when you go and try to put those on. But what you can do is at least feed this through here. Great television, I know, because I'm doing it in the back, but feed the bolt through the bottom and then just spin that nut on with your finger. So you can see that bolt, that nut is just sitting on top there, it's not in the pocket. Again, sorry. The final release version of this is going to have all that stuff fixed. When you see the video for Magic, you're going to be blown away by how much better Magic is than this build in terms of overall polish. But let's see, how does this one go? Oh, let's see. True. I forgot one thing. Yes. So this is a cosmetic thing. It's just purely cosmetic to black out this back here over top of the aluminum. It doesn't matter. You don't actually have to use it, but if you've printed it, then you can go ahead. What it does is it goes back here, and it goes something like this. Yeah, that looks right. So it's going to go like this. Okay. Now, I have already put in one of these, foolishly, but let's not be lazy. Let's just do it right. So I'll put this one in just to hang on to it. Now, put the nut on with my finger tip. One trick you can do with these square nuts is pretty easy, just to hold one in place, keep it from turning, and then just tighten with the screw itself. So now I'm going to take this one out so that I can do this and show you what it will look like. I gotta loosen this a little so it'll twist. Okay. Tighten this. This tailgate system is very cool to be able to install the mirrors on the tailgate and then install the tailgate into the assembly. We don't have that in Magic because basically the tailgate is the frame of the binoculars. So this is really cool. I haven't built Heart for a while, and this is one of the neat things about Heart, is having that tailgate separate. And that looks pretty right. Okay, so we have that on there, that cosmetic piece, and now we want to put our guy on here. And yeah, that looks about right. Some holes in this one. This one, anyhow, I'll just stop talking. Oh, and we need one more in this tailgate. We'll lay it down like this. And we'll put our thumb on that nut. Sorry that you have to do that. That's very annoying. Just put the thumb on the nut and then tighten on the other side. Okay. Alright, so we built a telescope. I think it looks like we're still recording. I haven't run out of card yet. Okay, so here's a telescope. This is a fully functioning telescope. You can just put an eyepiece in this and walk outside and use this. But that sucks, doesn't it? Because it's only one eye. So in our next video, we are going to put the rest of the shit together. I'll see you soon.